In the world of ancient warfare, we often picture glorious battles, heroic warriors clashing head-on, and decisive moments on the battlefield. But two military strategists from different parts of the world stood out for their unique approach to victory, an approach that avoided direct confrontation. These two figures, Quintus Fabius Maximus, a Roman general known for his cautious strategy against Hannibal, and Sun Tzu, the ancient Chinese philosopher-general, shaped history by teaching that victory could come without fighting. Though separated by centuries, geography, and culture, Fabius and Sun Tzu shared a deep understanding. Sometimes, the best way to win is not to fight at all. In this video, we'll dive into the Fabian strategy, compare it with Sun Tzu's indirect warfare, and explore how these two men reshaped the world of military strategy. Let's start with Quintus Fabius Maximus, who found himself in one of Rome's darkest hours during the Second Punic War. Rome's enemy, Hannibal Barca, had crossed the Alps with his army and delivered catastrophic defeats to the Roman legions, most notably at the Battle of Cannae. The Roman response, typical of their culture, was to face Hannibal in pitched battle. But after suffering heavy losses, it became clear that a different approach was needed. This is where Fabius Maximus came in. Instead of confronting Hannibal directly, Fabius implemented what would later be known as the Fabian strategy. His approach was simple: avoid open battle. Fabius shadowed Hannibal's movements, always staying close enough to monitor him, but far enough to avoid being drawn into a fight. By doing this, Fabius denied Hannibal the chance for another decisive victory. His goal was to buy Rome time to recover and rebuild its forces while slowly wearing down Hannibal's army through patience and attrition. But how did Fabius weaken Hannibal's army without fighting? Fabius focused on harassing Hannibal's supply lines, cutting off access to food and resources, and denying him the ability to sustain his campaign. He used natural barriers like rivers and mountains to hinder Hannibal's movements. This strategy, while effective, was deeply unpopular in Rome. The Roman people, raised on the idea of glory through direct combat, saw Fabian's tactics as cowardly. They wanted to see their enemies crushed in battle, not slowly eroded through careful avoidance. Now, let's shift to Sun Tzu, who lived centuries before Fabius and wrote The Art of War, a masterpiece on military strategy that remains influential today. Unlike the Romans, who prized direct, heroic battles, Sun Tzu focused on indirect methods. He believed that the best way to win a war was by subduing the enemy without fighting. For Sun Tzu, the ideal victory came through strategy, diplomacy, and deception, not brute force. Sun Tzu famously said, "The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting." This philosophy contrasts sharply with the Roman mindset, where war was seen as a test of honor and valor. While the Romans glorified the battlefield, Sun Tzu encouraged commanders to outmaneuver their enemies, avoid direct conflict, and instead exploit the enemy's weaknesses through cunning and psychological tactics. Adaptability and deception were key components of Sun Tzu's teachings. He believed that an army should be formless, able to adapt to any situation and change tactics at a moment's notice. This fluidity made it difficult for enemies to predict or counter their movements. Deception played a critical role in Sun Tzu's strategy. He advised generals to appear weak when they were strong, and strong when they were weak, confusing the enemy and forcing them to make costly mistakes. When we compare Fabius Maximus and Sun Tzu, we see several striking similarities. Both men believed that the best victories were often achieved by avoiding battle altogether. For Fabian, this meant outlasting Hannibal by denying him direct combat, while Sun Tzu emphasized defeating the enemy through superior strategy rather than bloodshed. Patience was another shared value. Fabius understood that time was on Rome's side. By refusing to engage Hannibal in open battle, he allowed Hannibal's forces to weaken over time. Sun Tzu, too, believed that a skilled general should wait for the right moment to strike, never rushing into battle, but always calculating when and where to attack for maximum advantage. Both strategists also valued weakening the enemy through indirect means. Fabius targeted Hannibal's supply lines, depriving him of food and resources, which mirrors Sun Tzu's advice to attack the enemy's logistics and disrupt their ability to fight. Both men recognized that by cutting off an enemy's lifeline, you could defeat them without ever meeting them on the battlefield. Another key element of indirect warfare is avoiding the enemy's strengths. Fabius knew that Hannibal was a tactical genius who excelled in pitched battles. By refusing to give Hannibal the chance to showcase his battlefield mastery, Fabius deprived him of his greatest asset. Similarly, Sun Tzu taught that a general should never attack an enemy where they are strongest, but instead exploit their weaknesses and strike when they least expect it. Despite the similarities in their strategies, Fabian's approach was deeply unpopular in Rome. Roman society, rooted in the values of bravery, valor, and direct confrontation, had little patience for Fabian's slow, methodical tactics. Romans wanted swift, glorious victories that could be celebrated with triumphal parades, not long campaigns of attrition. To them, Fabian's refusal to fight was seen as cowardice, a rejection of the very ideals that defined their military tradition. In contrast, Sun Tzu's principles were fully embraced in Chinese warfare. Victory through strategy was seen as a mark of wisdom. The ability to defeat an enemy without risking soldiers' lives was valued over the glory of battle. Chinese military culture, influenced by Sun Tzu, celebrated generals who could outthink their opponents rather than outfight them. The rejection of Fabian's strategy reveals a fundamental clash of values between Roman and Chinese military thought. Romans prized the honor of combat, soldiers proving their courage in face-to-face confrontation. Fabian's indirect tactics were too radical for a society that viewed war as a stage for heroism. On the other hand, Chinese warfare, shaped by Sun Tzu's teachings, placed strategy and cunning above direct conflict. The result was a military culture that respected indirect methods as superior. Fabian's strategy also failed to align with Rome's desire for immediate results. Romans were accustomed to quick, decisive victories. Fabian's approach, which required time and patience, was seen as too slow. The Roman people and military leaders wanted action, not waiting. In contrast, Sun Tzu's philosophy encouraged waiting for the right conditions before engaging in battle. Long-term success mattered more than short-term victories. In the end, though Fabius Maximus was met with resistance, his strategy eventually played a crucial role in stalling Hannibal's advance. His indirect approach gave Rome the time it needed to regroup and eventually defeat Hannibal. Similarly, Sun Tzu's principles have endured through the centuries, influencing not only Chinese warfare, but also military thought around the world. Both Fabius Maximus and Sun Tzu demonstrated that sometimes the key to victory lies not in overpowering the enemy, but in outthinking them. Their shared philosophy of indirect warfare proved that patience, strategy, and the ability to adapt could achieve what brute force could not. If you enjoyed this exploration of ancient military strategy, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more content like this.